Well, sunshine, what we're doing today on the continuation of this 026 build, we just got done testing the offset cylinder, the D-axed. If you missed that, you can go back and see it. Neat video. And there's one previous to that that tells some of the nuances of gains and losses you're going to get by offsetting the cylinder. So it's kind of a two video deal. So we got done with that. We got some big gains off of it. So I pulled it apart, ready for the next thing. This saw hardly ever gets a tank of gas through one mod before I take it apart and do another one, because I'm doing it one step at a time, you guys are aware. Alright, I say that to say this. We talked in a couple videos previous that this cylinder, or this piston come with this cylinder. Or one just like it, same brand. The squish band, and I'll try to hold that so you guys can see down in there. You really can't see the squish band. What I'm looking at is just the burn pattern, or the carbon pattern, if you will. But the squish band in this cylinder is 90 degrees to the bore, or give or take, close as you can get to 90 degrees. Now this piston has a little bit of a dome on it, and it's kind of like a French curve. It's a slider. It's not a perfect radius. The radius changes, but it's got a dome. Suffice it to say, it's got a dome. Try it again. I wanted to show it on that paper. It's not going to show on that paper. It's turning the paper instead of. Look at that ring around there. We'll talk about that here in just a second. Which that dome, the exaggerated rise, will claim the dome on the pistons like that, but the squish bands like this, it was 18 thousandths of squish right here and 40 thousandths of squish back here. So what we're doing is, and you can see the carbon ring on this piston around where that squish band's the narrowest. So we're taking, that's like 41% of the area from that carbon ring out from that squish band. So not 41% of the volume, mind you, but 41% of the area. Once it gets up to, let's say, under 30 thousandths, that last 20 thousandths of movement, 12 thousandths of movement, whatever it is squishing that and compressing that and forcing that the wrong way down past the rings, is my suspicion. So couple things: we don't have a very good burn pattern here on top, very good wash pattern, a lot of carbon, and that could be that I run steel oil. Yeah, I know it's not the best, I get it. That's what my local farm store has, and when I build saws, or Dad runs saws, that's what he runs. I can't get everybody in the world, or me included, to switch over to a perfect oil, so I've got to build a saw that'll burn cheap oil better. Or it's not necessarily cheap, it's just what everybody uses. They think it says steel on it or Husqvarna on it. Well, it's got to be the best stuff ever was. Not necessarily. They're selling chainsaws. I digress. And they're hitting EPA stuff and things like that. I get it. Shut up, you schnook. Old Bubba's talking to me. So we want to try to fix this burn area and get a cleaner burn, which is going to be a more efficient saw. Now, I tell you this: we chucked up the lathe. I'll show you how I did that in my mini lathe. We reshaped the top of this piston. Now, I suspect my squish is going to be 40 thousandths all the way through, or maybe a little bit more than that, which in turn is going to make us have to cut this base. But I want to do this in two steps. Depends on how long this video gets. I may get it all done in one step, but I want to pull a dyno run, do compression tests on it, and then check my squish, of course, too. Do compression tests on it and see what we gained on horsepower, and run it long enough to see about a burn pattern, and then we might reset. If we like what we got here, we'll correct the squish by taking the base, cutting the base. So that's where we're at. There is the spark plug as it came out after running it. Dyno runs, and actually I did a little bit of storm cleanup with it, so it had some idling. It ain't bad. It's running about right on heat. It's a little fat. They all run. My saws all run a little fat. There's the inside of the exhaust. Not blowing much out of there. Just nice gray or dark gray carbon. Same thing with my muffler cover. It's just a nice color. It's not wet, but it's not hot and not wet. So there you guys have seen basically the internal guts on this. I'll not waste. I'll show you guys how I did this on mini lathe. Don't take much to do it, and I'm gonna get this saw put together while you guys are watching that. This is much for me as it is for you. Getting ready to go machine this piston down a little bit. You can see where I've scribed that inside that cylinder where it's hitting. We're going to take that off. It's brand new piston. Right now it weighs 54.35 grams. We'll see how much we take off of it. From here to that ring is cut at about an 18-degree angle, or 18 off of 90, however you want to say it. It's got 18 degrees of angle on it. Now from that ring up a little ways, and it is domed, don't get me wrong, it's domed. But if I cut that angle about 3 times, I can figure it out. That's about 4 degrees there. So it starts off pretty sharp and tapers and tapers. And I don't have to go plumb to the center, and then on the top it's cut at about a 2-degree angle. So it's a gradual taper there. What I'm thinking I'm going to do is I'm going to set this compound slide at about we'll say about 18 degrees. And I'm going to try to stay off of this outside of this piston and just take that hump right off that middle right there until it runs out. I'll take, I don't know, 4 or 5 thousandths off of it anyhow. 'Cause I want to change the shape of that squish band. I don't want it to be an alligator squeezing and sliding that down in here. So how am I set up? I messed up. We want that at less angle than 18, don't we? Ha! About messed up. Okay, we flattened that off there without touching the outside, and we've left us a little bit of a pop-up lip in there. I don't know whether to take that off at about 18 or 20 degrees. I know it'll lower my compression, but I don't care. I think it's more important to have a proper shaped piston. Oh, I think that's going to be just right. you guys think? Okay, we cut the top on this piston to try to correct that squish. Now we started out, I don't remember, 55 point something grams on this. I never did write nothing down. We're at 50.4 now, 50.38. It bounces around. Now the piston we've been running is 53.8 grams with one wrist pin clip in it, and that's about 0.0. It's less than 1/10 of a gram. So anyhow, we substantially lowered the weight even off after this one here, which we had blended and rounded corners and worked down inside and opened up that windows so they'd flow better. Dadgummit, I was talking to that one guy. You guys know who I'm talking about probably. If you don't know, that's okay. He's gonna get me in trouble. Dadgummit. I went even bigger on the windows on this and here. I don't know, he gives me confidence sometimes, I guess. I went even bigger on the windows here, and you can see we've got into this crossbar here a little bit, but I assume there's still going to be enough air. We'll know. You get too small, I guess you'll find out she'll blow up, but when she's going to run against that, that's going to keep that wrist pin centered in there. We got to make sure we got enough. But you can see we've biggered them windows up quite a bit. We've come out this way just a little bit, blended off of this flashing, which that's support from the piston skirt there too, so we got to be careful. But I did blend it good. You can see there's pretty substantial difference in the airflow that's going to happen through them windows now. And we lost quite a bit off the top doing that, so we're going to lose some compression. We'll check the squish in it when we put it together. But that's where we're at on this piston, and this, like I say, it's coming along here. It's coming along. Well, we got her together. I just went outside and cranked it enough to get it running. We wound up at about 36 thousandths worth of squish, so we're way over on squish. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I guess I can edit it. You guys don't have to trust me. What I'm hopeful of, even though I went from 18 thousandths of squish to 35 thousandths, daggum near doubled it, but I changed the squish, the shape of the combustion chamber. I bet we don't lose any horsepower, or if it is, it's very minimal, and what we're going to get is a whole lot cleaner burn. That's what I'm hoping for. But we'll test run it here right quick, then we'll go to dyno. My turn to talk. So there we go. We're gonna get this thing on the dyno, and if we lost horsepower and it looks bad, I'll probably cut the squish on it. But then the next thing is open up them lower transfers. So let's see where we're at. Okay, we've changed the piston. We're gonna do a dyno run. Also, pay attention. We've had it heated up. This is the head temperature right here, about 244 degrees. I usually cool it down to the 230 range. It's been up to 300. I let it cool back down, then I do a dyno run. So I'm getting a little bit lower numbers than running the cold saw. And it's still climbing, it's warming back up after I shut it off. But anyhow, pay attention to that too, and we'll do us a heat run after this. I want to see where this is running at. But anyhow, here's the dyno run. I shut the saw off real quick. We're still going down on temperature. It'll start climbing here in a minute. We're getting ready to do a heat run though, so pay attention to that number right there. We're going to start her at 250 degrees and see where she goes for a minute. I have a feeling this saw is going to run cooler. Alright, we did dyno run. I think we're going to lose some power on dyno. We'll do the compression test. Like I say, we was about 150 degrees before. We'll see what we got on 12 pulls. That's usually what I do. Or that's not usually what I do. That's what I do every time. Ooh, we ain't got much left. We're only at 110 pounds, and we got a pretty big squish. We're only at 110 pounds. Excuse me. We're only at 110 pounds, so I imagine horsepower went way down. I've done the dyno, but I won't know what it means till I get the numbers in the computer. But I could tell you it was a little down. Done a heat run, and the heat run ain't putting as much in it either. And we're not a terrible amount down, but we're down, oh, probably 5% anyhow, I'm guessing, without putting the numbers in. But we're way down on compression, so I'd say we're going to need to drop that cylinder back down. Okay, here's the pistons, if I can keep myself from shadowing it. There's the one that's still attached to the rod. I just wiped the oil off of it with a paper towel. I didn't scrub it hard. Now that there has been wiped off the same way. And from cleaning up, they probably both got, they don't get run that long, guys. I ran a quarter tank of fuel through this thing, half a tank, and tore it back down because, well, I don't like running the same tank of fuel through one rebuild. I like rebuilding it 2 or 3 times a tank. Anyhow, my wash pattern looks a whole lot better. And I shouldn't have wiped it off before I showed you guys. You can see a little bit of the oil on top, which give you a little bit better indication. I just wiped it off. Wasn't nothing stuck to it. Now I'd say my ramp's a little bit thick here, this button. I should have broke that angle one more time, and I might do that. But we've lost some compression, so, oh, yeah. Let me set you guys up. Guys, we lost quite a bit of static compression. We're down from 155 to 110, so there's the spark plug come out of it again. Looks substantially similar. Tune was about the same. I always tune it on the dyno, guys, the same way. I pull it to 10,000 RPMs, which is 7,000 on the shaft, and just tune it for max right there. The inside of the exhaust, getting a better burn, not carrying raw fuel out there so much. So I'd say if nothing else, we help the fuel efficiency. You can see inside that muffler she's changed, and against that homemade bark box kind of thing it's changed. So we're getting a little bit ashier there, not wasting as much out the exhaust. And maybe it could stand to be a little bit richer, but my plug don't look bad either. And it's the heat's carrying down about where I want it to on there. So I'd say next step is to take 2 10-12 thousandths off the base of this and get some of my compression back, because we actually took quite a bit off top of that piston, making that shape that I wanted. And we may take it, and we may round that button off just a little bit more. But I'd say next step is about 10-12 thousandths off of this cylinder, and that'll be another video, because that's going to be more dyno runs. We'll go in the house. We'll see the dyno results on this one, and also some heat comparisons. I was unable to do heat comparison on the offset cylinder due to the fact that my previous version, I didn't have a good heat run to compare it to. So when we get into the next cylinder after this cylinder, we're going to go back and we're going to see how much heat we lost on the offset cylinder. But I say that to say this: I know we're down on heat now, and I don't know if it's because I'm getting a better burn, producing less horsepower, or the offset cylinder. We lowered the heat tremendously in this upper cylinder. So guys, we're on to some stuff right here. Okay everybody, we got our heat run done. I'm gonna warn you, it's not the normal standard that I like to have. I had to go back 2 runs to get a heat run, and that run was started off just a little bit higher. But it's what I could do. And as always, the red line is our current arrangement. The blue line is the previous arrangement. The blue line was just the backup rings before I moved the cylinder forward even. The red line is piston work on the offset cylinder. You can see we lost a bunch after the offsets, after we did that piston work. Of course, we dropped the compression way down. But there's also another problem in here, and that's where this heat that I have on my dyno, it showed me something I'd seen before on the single ring and double ring when I've been fighting, and that's a decrease in horsepower. This is a 1 minute run here, guys, 5, 10, 15, 20 seconds, and so on up to 60 seconds. I take a reading every 5 seconds, and I put it here on the chart for you. This is temperature in Fahrenheit, like 277 degrees and 288 on the other one. And they were very similar line. They produced heat. This one started out a little bit higher, and that could account for why it stayed higher all along. Very substantial. But this here line is the one that caught my eye, and this one's what horsepower is making at 10,000 RPMs. Not necessarily its max RPMs, but it's as close as I can get at 10,000 RPMs. I'll watch that shaft, which is 7,000 shaft RPM on the dyno you guys see. But I started out 3.77 horsepower, and after 1 minute I dropped to 3.69, which isn't too much, but it's a drop of 1/10 of a horsepower. Whereas in here you see I started at 4.94 and dropped, or 3.94 and dropped to 3.93. She kind of hung in there like a hair in a biscuit. It goes up and down a little bit because I have to, as that oil warms up, I got to fluctuate that valve to try to keep it in there. So there's a little bit of inertia gets in there sometimes. But the basis of it is I lost 1/10 of a horsepower over a minute here, which isn't, we all know that, saws lose, but I recognize that being the same thing I'd seen on the single ring and thin rings that I'd tried. I was having combustion gases, in my opinion. I'm pretty satisfied of it. Combustion gases going past my rings and fouling up my intake charge and actually heating that lower end, putting hot gases down there instead of cold air outside gases, which heats that lower end of that saw, which makes a steady decline. Just the hotter it gets, the less it just runs so much worse. Now I want to say that, and I want to tell you why I've become confident in that, and what my chart helped me do is I went out there and looked at it, and I'll be dadgummed if I didn't have the rings on backwards. And by backwards, I mean I had the bottom ring on top and the top ring on bottom. They're the same, but they hadn't been running the same place, and I keep my rings separate. When I take the rings off, I keep the top one so it goes back on the top, and the bottom one goes back on the bottom. And I had these switched from where they'd been kind of seating in at, and I'm not sure that's not what didn't happen there. We've got that corrected on the next one. Matter of fact, I've already I've already done the saw. I've already took and boosted the compression back up, cut the base. I've been another video, and while I was at it, I put a new set of rings in it. But you guys can see that chart there. This is temperature. Ignore the decimal. 3.26 equals 326 Fahrenheit. I just put a decimal in there so it all fit on the same chart. As always, red line's current configuration, blue line is the previous configuration. We usually like, and well, not usually, we always like to see that red line over that blue line. It means we're gaining, right? Well, guys, I'm honest with myself and I'm honest with you guys. It just is what it is. We lost, and we lost big time. We went from 4.26 horse at the previous configuration down to 3.90 horse, and real close to the same RPM, same curve. One was at 9960 and one was at 9969, but our torque, our max torque moved way down in the RPM range. Max torque was 2.57 foot-pounds at 7280 on the previous version. We're down to 5696 at the max and 2.43. So we didn't really lose as much torque as you might think, but torque times RPM equals horsepower. So when your torque's higher, moved up farther, so is your horsepower, because they're multiplied together and divided by 52. I say that to say this. We lost, but we know why we lost. We're down to 110 psi compression, and I've already cut the base on the cylinder and already put it back together, and I've put new rings in it because it changed. Cutting the base, of course, changed my intake timing, exhaust timing, transfers, and I didn't mess with any of those, but it did move the timing. So we kind of, and I also reworked the top of that piston just a little bit more and got rid of that sharp button. That'll be on the next video. I haven't put it on dyno yet, but I'm hopeful, and I'm gonna let those rings break in just a little bit. Put her in some wood before I get her on there. But you guys know it takes me a bit to edit videos. Appreciate you guys sticking around this long. If I earned it, give it a thumbs up. If I didn't, give her that Julius Caesar thumbs down business, which, weird fact, actually back in them days, the thumbs down was actually a good thing. There you go. There's a little bit of unneeded history for you. Talk to y'all later. Appreciate you stopping in.